Okay, hello sixth graders. This is my second video, so cut me some slack here. Today's lesson, we're supposed to go over notes really briefly and then answer and highlight some of the things from our section on sedimentary rocks. So I'm just going into your science folder to show you what you should have. I'm going to start at the very beginning, even though these first two assignments aren't geologically related. Remember, we had to create a model, and you got that grade. You should have your making graphs paper back. We did this together in class. If you were a cohort and remote still, you did that at home and sent it to me. Then we did a little activity, sort of like to get to know what you knew about minerals. We answered these, we answered this. It was a very brief little lab that you did. Sorry, let me move this up. On the back of this, about where you find minerals in your home. We read a little bit in the book, and then we did this activity about identifying minerals, in which you had about 10 minerals to identify by their color, their streak, their hardness, and then we guessed their names. So then we did the little lesson quiz, once again, open book. And here are your notes on the minerals. Of course, you had these first. I guess I should put that in there first. But you had these notes that you could have answered that. Then we went on to about rocks, and we did a little how do rocks compare with each other. We did the lesson quiz paper on classifying rocks. Once again, that was open book, but you could have used that and your classifying rocks notes. Remember when we found that primarily we describe rocks using coarse and fine, rounded, jagged, banded, and not banded. Then we did online, and oh no, I think we did this one in class about how do igneous rocks form. That was a quick lab. And then there was another quick lab on the back, but that went all as one grade. We also did this one, liquid to solid, when I lit the candle, and we checked to see how fast or how did the speed at which it cooled affect the grain size. Sort of answered through these together, and you gave me that paper. Some of you, I still have this, and I'll keep it in my folder to pass back to you. Unlike Taylor Swift, I'm hoping that we get back together. And then your igneous rock review, and then your igneous rock notes. So now section 3.4 is on sedimentary, and we're just now finished reading the text, and you were supposed to have answered the questions here, so we're just going to kind of go over them. If you read this article, a lot of kids love looking for arrowheads, and this is an archaeologist, and she finds arrowheads made out of a specific type of sedimentary rock called chert, and they talk about right here that chert is very hard, and it doesn't fracture, and it's easily shaped. So when they ask me what characteristics or properties of chert, that's what I put. It's very hard, and it's shaped easily. We always identify, let me see if I can get this on here. I don't know how I'm going to get this to be where you can see the bottom of the book. Oh, there we go. Okay, so let me see if I can get this, erase this. Oh, well, anyway. We identified the definitions. We always identify the key ideas that most sedimentary rocks, and the key idea here is the process in which sediment is laid down to become rocks. Because then they give you a whole page over here. We didn't highlight each of the steps, but we did write them down here. That weathering is sort of the breaking down. Erosion, if you think almost like you hear the word road in there, that means when it's carried away. Eventually it's set back down, it's pressed together, and then cemented and becomes rock. We actually spoke about peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. This one says, I know most sedimentary rocks are formed through the processes of, and then they want you to just rewrite this again. So not only did you see it in the key idea, and then you read it up here, and then you wrote it, they wanted you to write it again. There are three major types of sedimentary rock. The first one is something called a clastic rock, and that's just rock that is squished together from other types of rocks. They are classified by, if you've answered this question, by the size of their rock fragments. Now, I want you to double check what you wrote down here, and you're supposed to do numbers. The last two are often confused because I think they threw you a curveball. Shale, which comes from clay, is split into flat pieces, which is probably number 3 here. Sandstone, number 4. We've had some experiences with sandstone and granite, is right here. But when you look at these two, if you didn't look at the size and shape of their rock fragments, and you just did this was number 2 and this was number 1 because of their color, but if you look, the gray picture here has the rounded fragments, and the brown picture here has the jagged pieces. So that's the correct answers there. Why don't you check in your book to see if you noticed that? Okay, then the second major type of sedimentary rock is organic. I'd love for you to learn what that means. It just means that it comes from things that were alive, plants and animals. Organic means alive. So coal forms from the remains of swamp plants. We talked about Ohio having lots of coal. Hubbard, in fact, Hubbard Estates, those were coal mines under some of those houses. And then limestone forms in the ocean. This one looks difficult, but if you just go from this up to here, and you would know that the plants and animals become layered, they're squeezed together, and then over millions of years, coal forms. And then limestone, this doesn't have to be exact. You can have pile up, compact and cemented. You could have ocean animals with hard shells or skeletons die, but we need them to pile up on the ocean floor. So if you put this one on that one, that would be okay. And then the sediment is slowly changed to limestone. And we had an example, I have a big example of a storm surge, and we talked about where that could be found and how that tells you that maybe that area was once underwater. The third and final main type of sedimentary rock is chemical rock. I highlighted limestone can be both chemical and organic. It depends on how it forms. Because if these shells turn into calcite and then it's crunched into limestone. But if you get that calcite dissolved in water and then it recrystallizes, then you get the limestone, but then we would classify it as a chemical rock because if you read the definition, it forms when minerals dissolved in water actually crystallize. Now, if you answered this up here, this is a really interesting story. Look at this. Classify tufa as what? And it talks about it. It's formed when water dissolves and forms these. The only reason why we see these is that this water has been drained, and it tells you this. So this would make these particular rock formations chemical. In what mineral was dissolved? Once again, down here, it talks about when calcite, and over when it was organic, it talks about the mineral calcite. Right here in the first line, I don't have to be a whiz, I just have to be willing to go down into the information and find it. So when acid comes into contact with calcite, I'm going to see if I can try to find some so I can show you this. The acid bubbles. Sort of think about when you drop vinegar on baking soda, the same thing would happen if you were to drop some on some limestone. So we'll see if we can get that because that's what's going to happen tomorrow. I'm going to do the sedimentary rock labs with you here and we could fill out the worksheet together. So review shale forms from tiny particles of clay and what happens when things get deposited. The water has to slow down and then it will deposit it. And then if you come across a lot of shale, it would probably be it was one time underwater or there was clay there. And then we have people have used sedimentary rocks for, and we've said this a lot of times, for building and tools. So I didn't answer this question here. You can do that just to see, we can compare that tomorrow. But all of these questions should have been answered, I think, already. These are mine. You could answer them first and then check them. Tomorrow I will post a video of me doing the sedimentary rock labs, and I will attach the worksheets to go with them, because I think one of the ones on the overall week was a metamorphic one. So thanks, guys. I miss you. I can't wait till we get all back together again and I can have you guys touch on all of these rocks. Until tomorrow, take care.